Speaking about Revit specifically, then, do you think that there are capabilities that Revit has that aren't typically being used by the industry? Or is there a gap between the way it's being used and what it should be or can be used for?
I actually, I actually think that Revit is being used to within an inch of its life, maybe so much, and actually, it's as a product, it was started in around the 2001. You'll have to fact check me on that, but it's around then. They were acquired by Autodesk very quickly, and since then it's improved, it's been built on, it's had yearly releases. But when you have 20 years, 25 years now, sadly, of software development, building layer on layer on layer, you're going to have a lot of baggage under there as well. So that results in some, I guess, undesirable behavior, if you like, with the product. And because it's been so kind of developed alongside within the industry with all these other disciplines and engineers and technicians, it's reached its ceiling, I think. And I don't think there's capability within it that isn't being leveraged at some point. And I would say customers and users' demands are outstripping where the product is at the moment.
What's your kind of view on where we should be moving forward in terms of BIM? So move away from Revit, get some other tools that are more focused on specific things and integrate them.
We're talking about this at a really interesting time because there's been a big push kind of against that almost monopoly that Revit and Autodesk has on the industry. In that there's a kind of BIM 2.0 movement, if you like, where we're seeing a lot of startups move towards a more cloud-based, online first, built from the ground up for a modern construction industry. However, there are a lot of those. There are about 10, 15 products which look relatively promising at the moment. However, on our side, if we take it back to structure, all those products are generally, with the exception of a couple of them, they're looking at the feasibility stages. They're looking at really early stage development, primarily focused at architects. Quite a few are focused on MEP and services, but there aren't really those products there that are focused on specifically what we do. And so I think part of what I think the structural consultancy side need to do is get involved with those and help push those products forward, because products can't be developed in isolation. It needs industry experience for them to really connect in with what we're doing so that we can help guide them as well.
How do you think that relates to kind of people coming into the industry, learning BIM and having to adapt to all of these new softwares and processes? Do you think that they should be trained in lots of different types? What's your experience, and what do you think the BIM training should be like to gear up for these kind of changes?
I mean, BIM is a university degree now, where traditionally, if you look back in time, in someone in my position in a structural consultancy, it would initially be drafting on boards, and then that would progress, and that was the status for decades. And then you progress through to AutoCAD in the mid to late 80s, 2D drawing primarily, but rapid revisions, less people required, quicker changes. And then you progress to BIM, and that kind of took off in the industry, let's say in the mid to late 2000s. And again, less people, faster turnaround. I mean, Revit's name is a contraction of revise instantly. So it really, there's almost a technological progression that has affected how quickly change needs to happen within the industry. And so where I feel for people coming into the industry now, fresh, with minimal experience, they are bombarded by all of these tools, all of these processes. But I think it's difficult to expect people to learn specific tools when they start a course or start their education, and they're going to come into the workplace and that might be old hat by the time they get through. So rather than focusing on the actual tools, let's look at the processes. Let's look at how the information flow happens through the industry, because if you understand that, you're understanding the underlying principles of what we're doing. Tools are tools, you know. I revert to sketching when I'm in a meeting or explaining or learning or thinking something out. A pen and paper is just as valid a communication technique as any 3D model or 4D animation.